War Rapport family, it's your boy Mike G here with Caesar Walker. We got a special guest today as a part of the War Rapport player interview series. We are going to be bringing you guys some interesting interviews from former players. Today, we got King Dunlap in the house, former Auburn offensive lineman from 2003 to 2007, seventh round draft pick by the Philadelphia Eagles, finished his career out blocking for Phillip Rivers in San Diego. King, thanks for joining us, man. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to talk about a few things today. There's a lot happening in and around the program right now. And Auburn has hired a new coach. Over the last half of this interview, I want you to take us through what it's like to be an offensive lineman. Listen, man, you've done it at every level, right? And you played under a lot of different coordinators and some different systems. And some of that stuff definitely relates to what our current players are going to be going through. So I want you to take us through some of that. But we're going to start right now with what's happening with the program. Gus Malzahn is out. He's gone. The Gus bus is grounded. What are your thoughts on Auburn's coaching change right now? Like, what do you think about them making the change?
Well, I've been a big fan of Gus for a while now. He's done a lot of winning while he was there. I was honestly surprised by the firing. Kind of shocked, especially with the whole COVID situation and, guys opting out. But, it's just, I feel like if you fire a coach, you have to hire a coach that's better than the coach that you fired. That's
right.
Kind of the mentality that, most programs and organizations in the NFL, that's how they work. And like I said, I don't know much about, the guy that we hired for Boise State. I'm sure he's a great man and he's done some great things at Boise State, but I'm still trying to get over, the firing of Gus because it didn't make a lot of sense to me. I'm sure there's a bunch of different reasons, and I'm sure you guys have got plenty of reasons why y'all agree with it. But, I just feel like with the circumstances he was put under for this year, I just feel like he should have gotten another year just to be able to figure it out, especially with, Bo only being in his second year. Like I said, you lose a lot of guys. You got guys opting out, the whole COVID thing. Then they start all the starting and stopping with the, positive test. And it's just, at that age, as college kids, man, you need as many reps as you can get. That's what gets you better. So I feel like under the circumstances, to me, it was just more of a confusion firing. And like I said, I might have a little bit of a personal bias towards Gus because of, meeting him and knowing him and just, doing the great things that he's done offensively. I just feel like that was a bit rushed. They could have given him another year before letting him go to see if he could, turn around and bounce back and get a third year with Bo. Because usually with quarterbacks, it takes, that third year is usually when it clicks.
Is it? Is it though?
It with Bo being a true freshman, yeah. I mean, it's not like he had, it's not like he came in and got to study, and redshirted and got a year to learn and sit back and watch. Like he came right in and got thrown right into it. And, it's the sophomore slump, as they call it. So I feel like giving Bo a third year with Gus, I feel like he should have gotten that third year just with Bo alone. Like saying, and then if he couldn't, if he couldn't get Bo to, not win the Heisman, but, to make him one of the top quarterbacks in the conference in the country, I feel like, giving him another year would have given him a better chance. And now you got Bo with the new coach, new coordinator. He's probably going to get a year, maybe two if he stays, depending on how the year goes. Now he's got to learn another new system,
right?
Coming from, like, say, he got his high school system, then the 2 years, and then you got, then he's going from Gus to this new coach who coaches a completely different system. So I feel like it's given. More so looking at it from the quarterback standpoint is giving Bo a third year with Gus just to see if they could figure it out and turn around and, allow the program to get healthy from the whole COVID situation. Because that's been a big effect on the, on the entire world, let alone college football.
Well, the timing was certainly curious, right? Like they if we can agree on one thing is they wanted Gus out because they paid $21 million to get him out, right? Like, so it was an expensive proposition. But, with you hit on that third year being the year kind of clicks for the quarterback. And what I really feel like did Gus in was his track record with quarterbacks.
Right.
every good quarterback he's had has been a JUCO, right? Has been a junior college transfer, and he did have a good record. So I feel like the powers that be didn't really want to give him that third year. Right. They were like, we've seen enough. It's time to move on. So here we go. New system, new coach, right? And I know you said you don't know a ton about Coach Harsin, but he does run what everybody keeps screaming is a multiple offense, right? I find the term hilarious. And you played in the league, right? You've done it. You played in multiple types of offenses. You've blocked for a lot of different types of quarterbacks, man. You blocked for Vic. You blocked for pocket passes. I mean, you blocked for Brandon Cox, right? Like you have blocked for fast guys and guys who are pretty much the statues back there.
Yeah.
So, can you talk a little bit about what it's going to be like for a lot of because our line was a weakness this year. Can you talk a little bit about what it's going to be like for the line adjusting from what Gus was running to this new system that they're going to be running with more pro style concepts and some different things than they've been asked to do?
If you have more than one formation in your offense, then you run a multiple offense. So technically all offenses are multiple. So the whole multiple offense thing doesn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, because most offenses have more than one formation. So if you have more than one, that's multiple, right? You're gonna have a regular I formation. Even if you're in the shotgun, you got 2-3 wide receivers, trips. Like there's more than one formation. So any offense could be considered multiple offense unless you just lined up in unless you run the wing T. You line up in the wing T and that, but that's really not a thing. That's from back in our high school days. We're old now, so they don't, it's all the run and gun stuff now. You don't really see the wing T too much. But the differences for the guys up front is they'll get a little more rest time. Everything won't be as hurry, go during the series like that. But the biggest thing will be communication, which is, you can say that for any offensive line, doesn't matter what offense you run. But with the pro style offenses, there's more of a communication aspect amongst the guys up front and the quarterback.
Right.
With running the spread, there's not as many calls, there's not as many reads, by the quarterback and the line. But with running the pro style offense, calling out the mic, calling out linebackers, calling out fronts, there's more of a communication aspect of it verbally. So, and then, if there's going to be a crowd playing on the road, then you got to take in the crowd and with some hand signals. So the biggest thing, really, first thing is the communication part. Are the guys going to be able to handle, calling, the calling the mic and, the blocking combinations and everything? Because like I said, when you're running that spread, it's usually more of a zone concept. So it's not really as much communication. You make a call, it's one call, and then you just go.
Right.
With the pro style offenses, like I said, I don't know if you watch, guys on Sunday, see quarterbacks up there, everybody's pointing, talking. It's very rare it's very few offenses that you see in the NFL where the quarterbacks come into the line and there's zero communication.
Right.
So, and it's not just, and then the communication is not just turning to the side, getting the call from the coach or the card, and then everybody, going and running the same play. There's still a level of communication that has to happen at the line of scrimmage amongst the players as well. So that's one thing. And then just, like I said, the biggest thing, another thing too, is guys being able to get in the 3-point stance. Because usually with the spread offense, it's usually more of a 2-point stance.
Right.
And then with that being said, it's like, and then Bo being under center. I know Bo's been a predominantly more, shotgun quarterback. So him going under center, when the more your quarterback goes under center, the more offensive line have to put their hand in the ground to be under center, to be under the dirt. So, our guys going to struggle with that because, it's a different, as far as stance and footwork and weight placement, coming out of your stance, that's different too from being in the 2-point and the 3-point stance. So that's another adjustment they'll have to make. But like I said, communication, like I said, being able to get in the 3-point stance. And then another thing I'll say, like I said, the center quarterback exchange with being under center. If you've got a quarterback that's only been in the shotgun, like I'm sure he's been under center a few times, but predominantly in the shotgun, and then you've got a center who's done predominantly mostly under center, with the quarterback. So that quarterback center exchange is another thing as far as the center goes, that, going from that spread wide offense to more of a pro style would come from under center. So it's those are just some few adjustments that the guys are going to have to adjust and make.
For sure.
King, talk about the importance of chemistry with your O lineman. There was a situation in your playing days at Auburn where you had to jump in. I think Marcus McNeil got injured, and you jumped in and had to play with guys who had already established chemistry. And that was one of the big problems with Auburn this year. They got things going offensively, and then injuries along the offensive line hit. And it kind of threw a lot of things out. Guys were playing out of position. Guys were having to learn different things. Talk about the importance for this team coming up, learning a new system, trying to get some guys back healthy. The importance of chemistry along with the quarterback in terms of O lineman.
Well, up front, like I said, the five guys, we're the only group of five that's on the field for every play for offense or defense. And not only we the highest number, we're the biggest people on the field. So having that camaraderie and that chemistry is it's very, very important. And it starts off the field. Are the guys spending time together? Like, they don't have to spend all their time, but are they, hanging out, going out to eat, just watching film on their own, like how their interactions, are off the field. It has a lot to do with on the field. I know in our playing days, our offensive line was a pretty tight-knit group. We were all pretty close all 4 years because we had, all 5 years really, because the older guys always helped out the young guys. So it was always a togetherness. So that cohesiveness and chemistry is huge. And then when it comes to, the next man up mentality, like, you have to be ready. Like I said, I learned that, like you said, I learned that in college, having to be ready, because you never know, when you're on the team and you see that depth chart, if you're number 2 on that depth chart, you're one play away from playing,
right,
and being a starter. So having yourself ready and prepared, that also, first of all, falls on the coach. And one thing I know that helped me out a lot back then was there was no time constraints, or very little time constraints on the amount of times you could work out and practice and prepare in the off season to prepare yourself for the season. So just reps, like all the reps, our red shirt, and then the scout team reps, and then the off season reps, just getting reps after reps. Like now I know, especially with COVID, their time was very, very limited on getting those reps in. So it's hard to develop those guys, the 6, 7, and 8 guy, the backup tackle, the swing tackle as they call it, or usually the backup center and guard. Usually in the NFL, they find guys that can play both guards and center as a backup, because that just leaves them. If you have one guy that can cover that leaves more spots for other, people to dress, because there's only a certain amount of people you can dress in the NFL. But in college, just having that time to prepare. And then, like you said, if you're that number 2 guy, you have to prepare like you're the starter.
Right.
So that it starts with the coach. Does the coach, inform them, the backup guys, and let them know what their role is, and for them, get them ready to be able to let them understand that they're one play away from playing. That's one thing that I learned with coaching all that. I didn't realize it when I got that number 2 spot, like you said, behind Marcus. And I backed up Marcus and Troy. I was playing left and right tackle. So, I didn't really understand why he was always on me when I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do, even though I was like, Marcus is starting, I'm not really, and then Marcus went down and having to step in. That, like, Jay, you talking about like that game, that job. I remember I came out to the sideline and I was like, I get it. Like, okay, like I see why he was always, why he was always on me when I was a backup. So that when you're that guy, you have to make sure that it starts with the coach of letting these guys know, especially in college, because when they get to the league, it's more on the player. But it's the coach letting them know how important their position is, being a backup guy, and are they taking that position serious and focusing and working the way they need to be able to step in. And again, that goes back to reps, them having a limited training camp. There's only so many hours a week they can be on the field in the off season. So that, I feel like that kind of has taken away from the developmental part, kind of like we talked about a little bit yesterday, of developing those players.
Right.
That takes time and reps. So if you're cutting down the hours during the week, you're cutting down the practices and pads. And then this was like pre-COVID. Like, I'm talking, this was before, they changed training camp. You can only wear, you can't have back-to-back days and pad too. So many practice, like all that time they're taking away is reps that they're taking away from guys for them to be able to develop and be ready to step in, especially when learning a new system. So like, that's just another, obstacle and hurdle. It's doable, but like I said, they've got to make sure they find the time to get that done.
You said something interesting, and I want to stick with development here, because I feel like this was one of the biggest shortcoming of the Gus tenure, was that past the 1 deep, it didn't seem like we had much of a plan, right? So to kind of highlight the significance of the situation that you stepped into, to filling in for Marcus McNeil, right? That was a first-round draft pick you were stepping in for.
Right.
so that we were clear, right?
Yeah.
That was an all-SEC first-round draft pick that you stepped in for, right? And listen, you did well, right? Like I would say that you did well. But the having you being able to step in, right, for him, 6'9", I think you were playing at, what was your playing weight in college? Was it 350?
No, I didn't get that big till I got to the league. Back then, when I was probably about 315, 320. I just had that. I wore the neck roll Atlanta Cowboy collar on my shoulder pads to make me look like I was bigger than I was. But yeah, I was probably about 315.
Well, I mean, you certainly were the biggest guy on the field, on every field I've seen, right? So I would say, along with the development, I wanted to talk a little bit, because this is something that our listeners don't hear a lot about, right? And I appreciate you coming on and giving us some insight into what takes place behind the scenes, the day-to-day stuff that affects the product that we see on the field on Saturdays.
Yeah.
So, as a former Auburn video guy, right? Like, listen, I've probably been to more practices than King, for everybody listening.
You have, because you were there the year before, a year or two before I got there.
Well, for sure.
You've watched, so at that time, by the time I got on campus, you had already watched way more film than I'd ever watched in my life.
Oh, man.
When it comes to like watching football, as far as like watching it, you've like I said, people don't really comprehend the amount of hours and days and probably up to years of film that you've had to watch from being up in that tower and on those. First of all, being up in that tower and going up on those cranes, you got all the props in the world for me, because I wouldn't have.
Okay.
I used to look up there and be like, man, you a real one. And then going to the top of the stadium, all these stadiums being up there near the scoreboards and being up, because like that said, people don't understand, like that end zone view, like you up there and then you got to zoom in to get that. Like people don't realize how far away and how far up. Like you had all the stairs, you had to climb and all the ladders and all that stuff from filming and recording. But yeah, like I said, you've watched a lot more film than a lot of college football players that played the full 4 years of college football. So like I said, your football, like I said, your football credibility is there. You've watched enough. You've watched enough to be a coach.
Well, one of my fondest memories was about, this is going to sound weird, of all the football that I've watched, one of my fondest memories was actually eating with you guys, right? So during two-a-day practices, we had to eat, because two-a-days isn't what it used to be. Let's just go ahead and say that, right?
There's no more two-a-days.
Two-a-days used to be guys passing out, right? Like it was brutal. It was summer.
And Tuberville didn't have y'all on the practice field during the two-a-days, was it? In the fall?
Intramural.
Yeah, you was on the intramural field.
That's the thing. And then that was the worst part for me.
Yeah.
To walk back after practice.
Oh, man, it was so bad.
Because the intramural field wasn't close. It wasn't like a short walk.
Yeah, it was far.
Right.
But we would go to Sewell. We would go to Sewell Hall to eat. Right. And one thing that I remember, and this was where I was going with this, is nutrition. I want you to talk a little bit about nutrition, because you have played in the NFL where, in large part, there is some structure provided for you, but is it on you, the individual, to be a professional, because they're paying you, millions of dollars, right, to play now and to take care of your body. And I remember that it didn't seem like we had much of a nutrition regimen when you were there. And mind you, this was an undefeated team we had in 2004 that you were on as well, too, right? There was steak and potatoes and there was all this stuff, but it didn't seem to have high nutritional value or any method to it, right? So, you talked about the difference that these linemen will have going from a 3-point stance to a 2-point stance or vice versa, right? How does nutrition and training factor into the types of systems that these guys will be coming from and going to, right? Is that going to change significantly for them under a new coach doing more pro style type things?
Yeah, it probably will. Like you said, the whole nutritionist thing. I mean, I don't even think that was a word, back when, that was a position, not let alone a position. I don't think the word nutritionist existed back when we played, as far, especially for me, I was being so long and tall. My nutritionist was, the strength coach. He said, eat everything that you see. So there was no breakdown of, carbs, protein, fatty acids, all the omega-3s, all that. But now with them having nutritionists and the breakdown in the science, like that's a whole arm of the budget now. So they put they've got the money to invest in that, and that's actually a big deal. Like I said, now that we know more information about it at this point compared to, 20 plus years ago, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a lot different. It's more informative now. So I think it's very, very important of guys getting, their body mass right, getting their body fat down. Converting a lot of those guys, they still call it baby fat because they're still kids. It's converting that baby fat into muscle.
Right.
Or the ones that have a little extra body fat, it's getting like I said, called body mass index. All this is just getting your body fat down, reducing your body fat so you can be healthier and in better shape. So that's going to have a big part in the different type of offenses and schemes. Like you said, Chip Kelly was one of the main ones that brought that from Oregon when he went to Philly. I didn't play for him, but just hearing some of the stuff and some of the scientific things he would have them do, that kind of spread around the league. And I think Oregon was kind of one of the ones at the forefront to kind of start to hold specific nutritionists of everybody having their, because like I say, everybody's different. Every human body is built different. Different things affect our bodies differently. So breaking down, like I said, because I know in Philly they said he would make them pee to see how hydrated they were, and then their diet was broken down to who needs what, because some people's lacking in.
Wow.
Some people have an iron deficiency, and so it's like that breakdown is very, very, very vital. You usually don't see that. Mostly it was just, like I said, professional sports, and it wasn't really football. It was, it was more like gymnastics, gymnasts, figure skaters, the ones who had to actually tone their body and stay in tip-top perfect shape. Now that it's trickled into football, I think Chip Kelly, that's one thing he did bring kind of to the NFL, was that sports nutrition and breaking your body down. That's very, very important to make sure the guys are eating right, eating the right carbs, eating the right proteins, because that's going to keep them in optimal shape to be able to be the best player they can be on the field. So like I said, if it were, if the nutrition was the way it was back when we were coming through, it would probably been a lot more guys that played a lot longer than they did.
Yeah, for sure.
Even in college, let alone NFL. I said, I probably would have had, if I had started, I probably would have added another 4 or 5 years onto my career, but it just, it just didn't delve into it at that time. Like I say, you take a guy, look at LeBron, guys like that spending $4 or $5 million on their body every year.
Right.
There's a reason why he's in his 18th year, 36 years old, still taking off down there from the free throw line, dunking on people. So it's like that nutrition has a lot to do with longevity. So that's definitely a big deal. And I feel like I say, if they've got the budget for it, it'll definitely work.
For sure.
To piggyback off of that, Mike talked about nutrition. Something Mike mentioned a few episodes ago is we was curious to see who Auburn hires as his next strength and conditioning coach.
That's right.
Let's talk about conditioning for an O lineman, especially what these kids are about to take on going to a new system. How important is conditioning based on your experiences as a player?
It's very, very important. Most people see, you just big, y'all offensive linemen, just big, fat, slow guys that get in the way and they're always tired. People don't understand that some of the best athletes on the field are offensive and defensive linemen. You've got guys that are 300 plus pounds, 320, 330 plus pounds out there with great feet, moving fast. Like I said, if you pay attention and see, like I said, it's easy to run a 4.3 weighing 195, 190 pounds.
Right.
Try running a 4.9 at 330 or having a 30 plus inch vertical at 300 pounds. Like I said, throw another 200, throw another 150 pounds on and then go run a 4.3. So I said, people don't understand that, being an offensive lineman, being athletic is part of offensive line, and being in shape is a huge part of it. We don't need to go run, a bunch of miles and a bunch of sprints like the receivers and DBs, because we're rarely running straight ahead for a long distance like that. So we're not getting ready for a marathon. Our conditioning is always a quick, strong burst, short, quick burst, and then a short rest time. So it's like it would make the conditioning, just getting in conditioning level is completely different for offensive linemen than for, like I said, a wide receiver. And like you said, it would be interesting to see what coach they bring in, because I know with us having Coach Yachts.
Kevin Yaxel.
Yeah, Coach Tubb was a great coach. We had great coaches as far as scheme wise, but we went undefeated and won so many games when I was there because of Coach Yachts. Coach Yachts, Coach Lascalzo, Coach Walker, and then the guy that was the head coach that's been there, the head strength guy now, Brian, I think his name was. He was an intern back when I was there. I remember when he first came in early. He came in as an intern for off season or two, but he finally worked his way up to that. So he's kind of got that Yaxel, upbringing. But Coach Yachts, even if you ask, like I said, Coach Tubb being the coaches, Yachts had just as much to do with us winning all those games as Coach Tubb did.
For sure.
Those off-season workouts, But yeah, that strength coach will definitely have a big say-so in how they are on the field. So it'll be interesting to see which route he goes in, bringing in what kind of coach he brings in. Like I said, he might, with him coaching a pro-style offense, will he reach out to a guy that has been a strength coach in the NFL and bring him down, or bring in one of the assistants who's under a good strength coach for the NFL. So like I said, it'll be interesting the route he goes. Will he bring his guy from Boise with him? You know what I mean?
Right,
So it'll be interesting to see which route he goes. Like I said, if he's with the more pro-style offense, it helps to have a more pro-style strength and conditioning coach.
Right. Exactly. Right. So it's funny, kind of staying with this theme of conditioning. I remember one time I hit the weight room with King, right? And he was doing one of y'all crazy football player workouts. And I'll never forget this. It actually changed the way that I looked at my fitness for the rest of the days I've been alive. I'm getting ready to get down on the bench press, and King used to make fun of me. I mean, I was stronger than I looked, right? But like King would make fun of me, and he'd say, "Mike, don't hurt yourself in here. We don't have insurance to cover random people coming into the Chargers weight room to lift weights," right? And that facility out there in San Diego, I really like that facility that you guys had out there when I'd come visit. But I remember getting down and looking at one of the workouts you were doing, and you looked me in the face and you were like, "Man, why do you need to do any of this?" Right? Like, and I was like, "Well, I mean, look at you, you're strong." He was like, "Yeah, but I have to move 300-pound linemen out of the way. When during your day are you ever doing this with 300 pounds?" Right. I was like, "You know what? I'm not ever. So I don't even know why I'm doing this. It's stupid." Right. And so my point is that
you would not have to tell me that, by the way. My point is, for the record.
Where can you talk about a little bit about the importance of designing specific workouts, right? Because we're talking about the different things these guys are going to be asked to do. Yeah. Right. And that there are training programs specific to what they're going to be asked to do, whether you're a lineman. You referenced Chip Kelly, right? He needed his offensive linemen to be a little bit lighter on their feet. Yep. and more nimble and
better condition, way better condition.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and the training that they went through is drastically different in a Chip Kelly system than it would be under something different. Right. So, I mean, the strength and conditioning coach he's one of the most important coaches that never gets talked about.
Yes.
Right. So
I feel like they should change the name. They should be a coordinator. It should be strength and conditioning coordinator. You got offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator, and then strength and conditioning coordinator. That's where they should be on the coaching staff.
Right.
I feel like that's something that that they should start doing, because like you said, it's one of the most vital coaching positions that rarely gets talked about. Everybody talks about, you got a great head coach, you got a great offensive coordinator, you got a great defensive coordinator, you got a great special teams coach. Well, there's a guy on the sideline. He's usually the get back guy. Whenever the guy's on the sideline telling guys to get back,
right?
Those are usually the coaches, because they're the only ones strong enough to hold back all those guys back. But I feel like strength and conditioning coordinators should vault up and be moved. So when they show the coaching staff, like the head coach, offense, defense, special teams, strength and conditioning coordinators right there on the same level as the rest of those coordinators. It's that important. And the specific, to get to the specific workouts, that definitely is very, very important. I know when we first got to Auburn, Coach Yox kind of had a generic workout for everybody, but the more he learned through the 4 years there, I could see him, he was going to all these seminars and stuff. He started teetering and changing our workouts to be more conducive to linemen. It's a perfect example. So when I first got there, our conditioning test was running 10 gassers, 150.
I remember
150-yard gassers. One of the worst workouts. And when was offensive lineman ever run 150 yards? When would anyone run 150 yards?
Listen, that bear would jump on your back around 75 yards. I remember I used to film it.
The bear don't even compensate no more. But by the time I graduated, our conditioning test was 1690s, not even 110s, but 1690s. In a certain amount of time. So it was better. It was more conducive for us to run 90-yard sprints than 150-yard gassers, because we weren't, we're not marathon runners, first of all. But that's just part of, like I said, just teetering the workouts to be more specific. Like, we went from doing all that running to doing more agility work, doing more metabolic work, more things that were conducive to our position. So that's one, definitely. And now, so it's even more so like that, the position-specific training, because you got all these different training facilities. And even so, I work with some high school kids here in the area this past year. A couple of my guys made the all-state, all-region team, played a couple state championships. So just catering that workout, like you said, specifically to specific positions, definitely is very, very important. Like you said, I was telling you, Mike, there was no reason for you. You should have been doing the DB workout in the weight room.
For sure.
Lower the weight, a lot of reps just to stay strong, keep your strength. There's no need for you throwing, 303 plates on the bar when are you going? What are you doing that's moving 300 pounds? Outside of maybe some of the speakers that you used to work with, but especially when it comes to, like I said, running that pro style offense. Like I said, it'll be very, very interesting to see the route that he goes with his staff.
So, what words of wisdom would you give to the kids on the O-line going into this upcoming year? If they were fortunate enough to speak to a 9-year NFL professional such as yourself, you're where these kids would dream of being. What was the one thing that you would say to these kids in terms of getting ready for the upcoming year?
Well, for them, normally most guys will say, work hard, give your best effort. I feel like that's kind of a given at college at this point. It's you shouldn't have to tell kids like that. The biggest thing I would tell them would be to buy in. With having a new staff coming in, new coaches, it's going to be different than what you were used to. Mm-hmm. Like and like I say, even though you might not like the coach and know much about him, if the guys don't buy in, the system's not going to work, whether it's good. You won't know if it works or not if the guys don't buy in. So buy in, be there from day one, give your best effort every day. And as far as the O-line goes specifically, man, build that camaraderie off the field. Spend time. Right. I know we got COVID going on, but hang out with each other away from the facility. Like build that camaraderie, because if you do that away from the facility, once you get there, it's already that camaraderie and chemistry that y'all talked about it's natural.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you build it away from the facility so that when you get to the facility, that bond is already there. You're just molding it and refining it at the facility when you get to actually working and grinding. So like I said, buy into the system, whether you like it or not. You got to go all in, buy in, build that camaraderie and that chemistry. Like I said, especially with the new coach. And like I said, man, just stay focused. It's a lot. I couldn't imagine playing college football with the way, what's going on in the world right now with this COVID thing. Like it's right. I said, let alone playing NFL, but just thinking back to being that age, we were, we remember being that young and that dumb, and it's already a lot to deal with throwing COVID into it. It can be very, very taunting and I'm sure frustrating and hard on them. So that's why I said just buy in. You already got a lot going on. So just buy into the system, buy into what he brings, and put it all out there, because, like I said, it'll only help your team and yourself in the long run.
Well, you were part of an undefeated Auburn team that, in my estimation, definitely would have given USC a better fight than Oklahoma did that year, and that blowout that we watched, right? But
don't remind me.
Chemistry, camaraderie. I put together, a intro video for the games that season before the season started, and it was
highlight video ever.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can go check that out on YouTube.
Hands down, ever. This man made the best highlight video I've ever seen in my life. I've yet to see one that top it.
If you can go check that out on YouTube. It's the story behind Auburn's 2004 hype video. It was actually the first hype video that we ever did at Auburn. There were lots of copycats after. None came close to my work. Just a little plug for myself. But what I saw was a lot of things the things that embodied the theme of that video was about leadership, courage, attitude, chemistry, a lot of things that you guys had that I really felt like is just as big a reason that team was able to go undefeated. You beat Tennessee twice. This is something that doesn't get talked about enough in our conference. Right? It is difficult to beat a good team twice in the same season. You guys did it, and you did it convincingly twice, right? That team was good. 4 first-round draft picks, on that squad. Mm-hmm. Again, you played a role. You stepped in. You guys did a lot of things that really, to me, embody what Auburn was, because we were a part of that community, on and off the field. Yeah. And so, King, I want to thank you for coming on. Like, I know, I want to talk a little bit in closing about what life is been like for you after football? I know you got your hands in some things right now. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the projects that you have going on?
Yeah, well, to go back on your highlight video, like I said, the one that you made, the bad thing about it was we never got to see, like, if we were able to watch it while it was playing, like that would have gotten us even more hype, like before the game. So, we would always run out after, it would go off. But, we would see it during the week. But like I said, that highlight video, the ones that you would make for us during the week were great anyway. Like I said, with all the music, like I said, I remember having the team meetings, like being there, the music highlights start coming on. You start showing guys getting knocked out and touchdowns, and then you got the little John kick in, and guys start going.
Yo, you know what? I have a story to tell. As a matter of fact, story time, right? So when I started doing the weekly highlight videos, Caesar, I don't know if I ever told you this story, but we had a little known linebacker named Andrew Letts. Don't know if you remember that name. You remember Letts?
Remember Letts,
right? And so, in one of our blowout wins versus Louisiana Monroe, right? Like I essentially how these highlights wins. I pick a 5-minute song.
I remember what you're talking about.
I pick a 5-minute song, and you have to cram all these highlights into a 5-minute song, and everybody looks forward to the Thursday night highlight to see their highlight from the previous week's game played, right? So Let's had a great tackle, and
it was a knockout. It was a good hit. It was a good hit.
And in the mess of all the highlights, I somehow missed his tackle. But then when I did show him, I showed him actually getting like blindside blocked or something. And oh man, it was so bad. And so it was a highlight of somebody else, but he got cleaned on the blindside on the block, right? And so after the highlight show, Let's comes into the video room mad. He was upset.
Sure.
And he said, not only did you miss my highlight, my only highlight, you showed this. And my boss, Brian, at the time was just like, oh, Andrew, I didn't do the highlight. And I was I was 145 pounds weight of college. I was in the corner quiet. I was like, my bad. Right? My bad. I'll get you next. I mean, he didn't have a whole lot of highlights. He was a backup line back and forth. But like,
that tackle, I think it was a special teams tackle. That tackle was the highlight of his year.
Yeah, of his career. Yeah. And I missed it. And
I remember when he because he was a walk-on when he got promoted to the starting kickoff. Like he ended up making the kickoff team, and he loved it. He'd run down there and knock the hell out of somebody every kickoff, and that like he loved it. Like that's the one job he had. He went all in with it, and he would make some great tackles, some great hits, and get everybody hyped to start this. Like I said, if Cody or John weren't kicking the ball, or Yost wasn't kicking the ball out the back of the end zone. Had some returns. He made some plays, but I definitely.
Oh man, it was low light of my highlight career. It was a low light of my highlight career was missing Andrew's highlight. But good times. Anyway, I want you to tell us a little bit about some of the side projects that you have going on now. I know that you started a clothing line.
Yeah, clothing line. I'm actually wearing a shirt right now. rosewearco.com.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Check us out. The clothing line. It started with a couple of my best friends I grew up with, just trying to help, start a business, help them, grow their brand, grow their business. And so a reason why where we got the logo from, one of my best friends, my homie Theo, my homie Teddy. Teddy Rose, he's an artist. He's not a rapper, he's an artist. He does music. So
his stuff is good. It's good.
Yeah, check him out. Teddy Rose, Teddy Rose music on all platforms.
I gotta say, favorite Teddy Rose song, "Caught by the Piece." Go check that out on iTunes. That goes hard. I'm not gonna lie, I rode that pretty hard after you.
You said that because that's gonna be a big part of the push we do with this new merch drop. That's he made that song for the merch.
Well, King, again, thanks for joining us. As always, we are the War Rapport. We're going to be coming at you guys with more content like this. We got more interviews coming up. So please click like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell on YouTube so you can know when we're going live or dropping content for you. We are the War Rapport on Twitter and Instagram, TW Rapport on TikTok. So we're signing off, guys. As always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.